This is my first time that I'm here in your team, in your social network, but for the first time I'm here, and I'm also a speaker. It's very difficult for me to talk to you guys in this situation, but I hope that you enjoy this TED Talk, and I have something to tell that help you guys. Some of you guys are working in a company, some of you are looking for a new job, and I see that we have 2 new graduated here. Thank you for coming, and I hope that you enjoy this TED Talk and continue to coming here and for next TED Talk. So the next speaker also speaking English. So this is the special TED Talk. Usually the TED Talks were in Persian, but now because of you guys, it's very good. So it's a new challenge. That's very good. Thank you very much. Challenges. I like challenges, and
you said his reaction when he talked to me in private. But
thank you very much for coming.
He's actually very cool about it.
Yeah, that's okay. There. Thank you. I hope that you enjoy this TED Talk, and I have something to tell. So,
talk in Farsi, you just have to turn on the subtitles.
Okay, so
these guys they'll learn Farsi soon.
Oh no, it's okay. So I've been here for 10 years, almost 10 years. From 2013, I started my PhD at the University of British Columbia in the Department of Electrical and Computer Engineering that time. My major was in power systems, but it was a combination of power system and communication system, and that was the start of my ideation for having something, combination of kind of networking, communication networks, larger scale systems, especially in kind of having hardware plus communication. This was rooted in my major because I have a background in power system, electronic design, and also in communication system. In 2017, I finished my PhD, and I went to Iran. I went back to Iran, my home country, because of my wife. She is a specialist, and she started working in Iran for 4 years actually. We went back to Iran for 2 years. After that, we got my PR and came back to Canada again in 2019. When I was in Iran, I worked as kind of, how to say, BI specialist, business intelligence specialist in one of the companies in Iran. And in that time, I learned how to be in meetings, how to talk with clients, how to prepare reports, especially the business reports, because BI is kind of working, when you are a BI specialist, you need to work with KPIs, key performance indicators. And that was very important for me because KPIs are part of any companies. And from that time, when I came back to Canada in 2019, I met Hamed, my colleague and friend, and we talked about Hamed Nouri is also, in that time Hamed was a PhD student, and I was at UBC, I was a postdoc. And in 2019, we talked about having a kind of a new idea of a company named SenseWeb in that time. And we discussed how we can tackle this problem of wildfires. In that time, wildfire was not a big problem in Canada. So it was kind of a new challenge, but kind of emerging challenge. So it was existing, but not very important at that time. So we started talking about having kind of a device to detect, and that detection should be early detection for wildfires. A sensor. So in that time we started working on our ideation phase, having a very simple system with different kind of sensors. And of course, we try to use our knowledge, our background, especially our background in communication systems, to make the device fit with the forest environment. I will talk about this when you ask questions, but I don't want to go to the details because it's kind of a very general speak for now. So in that time, we started working on SenseWeb, and then we registered the company in 2019, early 2020, as a SenseNet instead of SenseWeb. But it wasn't a very fast start. It wasn't. We worked in different areas. I was working as a postdoc at UBC. He was a student, PhD student. We were very busy with our work, but at the same time, we had regular meetings. We tried to use our own connections to make the idea develop and have a kind of our first product, our kind of a minimum viable product to test the market. We had a product, and then we started searching the market, especially the funding sources for the product. It was very difficult to kind of prove the idea in that time, but sometimes people are lucky, and we got some kind of some fundings from BC Fast Pilot, from IRAP, and that was the start of the real start of the company in that time. So in 2021, we got a project from IRAP, and it wasn't that much, so $100,000, but that was good. So for the starting point. And we used the money to have a few, kind of our first batch of sensors. They were garbage, really garbage. Kusha knows. They were garbage, but that's okay. So it's a kind of a journey to get to develop something. And after that, we did our best to improve the product and make our connections more and more. Then, after having the first project with IRAP, we got new projects after and after. So now we are kind of established company. We have our investors. We have kind of good cash in the company, and we are developing our new products, trying to have more customers, more clients, and this is a big problem in Canada. Wildfires are around. We have currently at this moment we have more than 1,000 wildfires in BC right now, even though this is not a fire season right now. So fire season usually starts after June, in mid-June, or at the end of June, but these years are getting different. So, last year we had 10 times more than average wildfires in Canada. That's it. So now I'm here to answer your questions, and meanwhile when I'm answering your questions, I try to give my experiences, what I had as what I experienced, and what were my failures, how I tried to fix those mistakes, and of course as a team, Hamed and I, and I'm here to answer your questions, or if you have anything to say, I'm here. Yeah, please. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Shahab, for sharing your experience and knowledge. So last week I was reading an article about the wildfires happening in Alberta, and they were talking about the zombie fires, that they will stay under the ground, and then after that, after like a bit of warmness, they will start. So does your sensor, have you thought about that? Does your sensor sort of catch those zombie fires?
Yeah, this is a very good question actually. The zombie fires are those fires that are underground fires. This is another name. So underground fires are kind of a new type of fires that we have currently in BC, especially around railways. So because of having sparks close to railways, these sparks go to those dry vegetations around the railways, and they stuck in the fire will stuck under those vegetations for even for 1 week or 2 weeks. So we don't have any flames. And detecting these kind of fires is very difficult because satellite images cannot detect these kind of fires. And we cannot also detect these fires from using cameras because there is no real smoke. But we have gases. We have gases, NO2 gas, CO2 and CO are among those gases that can be detected. So for this kind of detection, we can use sensors. Of course, sensors, we need a lot of sensors around. This is a challenge, but the only solution for now for detecting underground fires or invisible fires that are in kind of a smoldering phase is the only solution is sensor. And SenseNet now is trying to tackle this challenge. So we have our first project with CN Canada, so the Railway of Canada. So we started to install our sensors, the first 200 sensors close to the railways in 4 locations, 2 in Alberta and 2 in BC, and especially for these kind of fires. So on invisible fires close to railways, yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
No, I just want to say thank you.
So heat camera, like there's no way to detect it by heat because they get hot.
Yeah, heating signature is also a kind of trigger for wildfire detection. But when you have a heating signature, you probably have a flame. And if you have a flame, you have a good amount of smoke. So in that case, you probably can detect the fire using cameras, smoke detection cameras. Those cameras that are usually on the towers, cell towers, or any kind of towers or high buildings. So these cameras can also detect the smoke. So usually, and also these heating technologies are very expensive. One thermal camera that is useful for wildfire detection can have a long distance detection is more than $100,000. And this is really a risk, especially for startup companies. It's a risk because when you install $100,000 equipment, if it doesn't work, you will lose that money. So it's very risky for small companies. And larger scale companies also won't get into this kind of business, installation of thermal cameras, because if they have this money to install these cameras, they go for easier solutions, smoke detection cameras, simple cameras that are just $2,000 to $5,000. So instead of having that, so now heat signatures having a heating signatures and detection by detecting the heat of the fire is only available in the market by using satellite images. NASA is now providing hotspots, real-time hotspot, almost every 2 hours, hotspots of the ground using different satellites that it has. And this is the only way. But those hotspots should be very large. They cannot be very small. Those are small. SenseNet tried to have a product to tackle this problem by using thermal sensors. But again, thermal sensors were not that kind of attractive for the market. So at the beginning, we thought that the market will like this product, having a thermal sensor. But no, it didn't. It wasn't a product market fit. And that's a very important point, guys. If you want to have a startup company, if you want to have a company, you should have a product market fit. And if you think that your product is good, it doesn't mean that market likes the product. And you should change your way anytime that you feel that you cannot sell your product. Because you don't have time. You don't have time to make mistakes after a mistake. So if you want to be successful as a startup company, you shouldn't be very kind of feeling. I don't know how to say it in English, but you should change your mind after you understand that, okay, your product is not attractive for the market. Don't waste your time.
Thank you, Mr. Shahab. Actually, I want to ask about your investor and how you find your investor, because I think it's a niche market you are working on, and we have the same case actually. For my own case, we are working on digital protection relay, and it's something that even they work on power system, maybe they are not familiar with digital protection system. I want to ask about that, how you measure your market size and how you want to declare this problem for investor and persuade them that to invest on your idea, you know?
Yeah.
When we are talking about food, shoes, everyone can calculate, can sense it, but something like wildfire.
This is a very good question, guys. So this is just my my point of view. It doesn't mean that it is really 100% correct, but startup companies should not market very deep technical products, because in that case you make your market small. It's better to find your market in something that is acceptable and it is impactful for at least a good percentage of the public market. So when you are talking about, for example, a protection, you shouldn't market a protection for everyone. So that protection for power system is this can be very technical. It can be a kind of a product that is really different from similar product in the market. So, but the point here is, investors are not technical. Investors are just rich people that they like kind of a very general concept. For example, environment. They like, for example, water safety. They like wildfire detection or forest protection, something like that. Or in your scenario, they like, for example, they have a kind of idea of having renewable energies for power systems, or kind of having a new type of energies in the power networks. So in that case, it's better to find use cases of your product in a general layer, in a general way. So you try to find your investors, and then after finding that, my idea is to finding investors, you should go for accelerator or incubator programs at the beginning. You cannot find your investors anywhere, so it's not easy. At least in Canada, it's not easy to find investors. Usually investors trust well-known incubators. You can find angel investors, but angel investors will then invest just 50K, 100K, that's it. But if you want to have 2 millions, 4 millions, 10 millions, you should go with kind of incubators. CDL is a good incubator for CDL, yeah. Something yeah.
There are like chapters all around the country.
Exactly.
And then, which it's similar to which Ashton participated recently in Seattle, which
Yeah.
He discussed last week.
CDL is one of the best. If you graduate from CDL, it's very difficult. Five rounds of very hard, very difficult process. But if you graduate from CDL, for sure you will have a good investment. SenseNet could pass this after 1 year of working very hard. I can tell you what was the tricks, what were the tricks, but graduating from CDL was one of the important milestones in our company. Without that one, we couldn't get investment, good investment. Yeah. CDL is a very good one, but being in a CDL, graduating from CDL needs kind of prerequisites. For example, having cash flow, having first customer, having a product in TRL 7, or at least saying that you have the product in TRL 7. So these kind of things are the prerequisite of being graduated from CDL. But to be honest, having investment is kind of you should be very careful. You should work hard on it, and it's not easy. It's not luck. You cannot count on your probabilities or being lucky or this kind of thing. It's not possible. It's kind of a part of the business. It's like a client, having a client. Yeah.
Thank you.
First of all, thank you for sharing information and experience. I have actually two questions maybe in their angle. The first of all is that do you sell your product or you have some plans like providing service? And the second one is how is the maintenance of your product?
Very good question, guys. So actually, this is kind of learning. We are also in the learning curve for this kind of process. So how to sell our product, how to get make money from our product. It's very kind of challenging task. We are in the learning curve. So for now we have a contract, and first of all we sell the hardware with kind of a predefined value, and then we have a 1-year subscription for the software. So it's a combination of hardware, sensors, cameras, and gateways, and also we have a software to manage this, the data that are coming from the sensors, the streams that are coming from the cameras, and also the analytics that we are doing on the satellite images. But it doesn't mean that this is finalized. No. So we are just trying to see how to make the marginal profit higher, or at least make it reasonable. But for maintenance, again, for now, the maintenance for the product that we have, it's one of the big questions that we also have in the team, because the product is under development. We are making the product better and better, and this development is kind of in a fast pace. So every 2 months, every 3 months, we have a new version of the hardware, but we don't want to miss the market, so we just put the even though it might not be the best product that we feel, but we just go to the market and install the device. For now, the best solution that we have for the product is to just replace the device with the new one, because the new version is better than the old version, really better. But in future, we feel that we need to have something modular. Being modular is very important to have healthy maintenance process, and we try to do this, but for now we are not in that position. So if something bad happens to the product, we just change one part of the product, not all, and that would be easier for replacement.
I have the same question as Mohammed asked initially, but let me rephrase it or put it in other words. This is really interesting because the problem you're solving is kind of a replacement or counterintuitive solution as the insurance company does. Like you are preventing something from happening, and they are putting money to have a recovery plan for it. So how do you see your position in the market? How does that affect your plan on whom to sell to? Because government or agencies, like big government-dependent organizations should, by nature, be your target market, but at the same time, like infrastructure and private entities who are endangered from the wildfires can be a potential customer as well.
Yeah. For now, the customer segmentations that we have is 3 layers. So the first one is the governmental agencies like municipals and provincial parks, these guys. The second segmentation that we have, the second part of the segmentation is private companies, power system utilities, and railway companies. The third one is kind of a smaller section of the market, like universities, schools, indigenous communities, these small sectors. When you have a product or your company is not always the best for everyone. So yeah, you're right. Insurance companies we are working just in contradictory to the insurance companies. But one of our clients now is one insurance company in Seychelles. It's weird that one of our clients is an insurance company. So why? Because when we have the sensor, that insurance company is trying to promote new services for the clients. And by making the insurance rate lower, they are getting more customers in their market. So, but it doesn't mean that they are the best client for us. So they are one of the clients that we are just testing them. But it's possible. It depends on you guys to how to promote your product to a client. This is not my specialty to being a good marketing person or a salesperson. But if you have a good sales team, they can do it. And they need to find what is the need of the customer. Of course, if it is not a good customer, if the sales cycle is long, just ignore it. So you can go for another one. But this is not my specialty, but yeah, it's possible. But you're right. For now, we are targeting more on private companies because the sales cycle is shorter than governmental sectors. When we have a few customers, few clients, and we have kind of good reputation, then we can go for the governmental sectors too. But any of you guys are thinking about having a company and you're thinking about how to find your product market fit? Yes. Can you tell more about how you're approaching it?
Yeah, actually there are a lot of things, a lot of target market in common between which you have as a government stakeholders and private stakeholders in our solution. And it was my question to asking you.
What is your product?
We are working on mobility driver behavioral analysis. One of our ideal customer profile are the policymakers and regulators for the road safety, insurance companies, and so on. But from other side of the ideal customer profile, we are dealing with B2B, truck owners, the cargo owners, and the people who have fleets on the road. One of the complications dealing with government is sales life cycle, which you mentioned. There are a lot of regulation, complication, contract bids, and so on. So entering to the government side of the sales is very complicated, but for the services like you have, it's essential because you need to be in contact with the wildfire information systems in Canada, for example, you need to be in contact with CP, CM, which they are most of your customers. What is your advice to dealing with government customers?
Honestly, the thing that we are doing to attract governmental sectors is a little different from just directly going with the government. So we had a funding source. We had a project with government. It was the name was I don't remember the name actually right now, but the way that you can approach government is to have a project as it was sorry, but we have a project. We had a project, 1 year project with government that was funded for 500,000, and that project was a kind of special door, special way to have easier contract with government. So that is a kind of that project that usually every year is the application will be open every year. So and you can if you have a product, you can participate in that kind of funding a program and test your if it is accepted, you can have this opportunity to test your product with governmental agents. And then if it is approved, if it is it gets traction from the client and you have a good reputation in that project and you have a good kind of comments, the government will open a special track for you, for the company, that you can have up to 8 million contract without regulations, without a special regulation. It would be a fast contract, a special contract. There would be a special rules for those companies that pass this step. It was about testing something about testing something. I will if I remember the name, I will tell you guys. So my suggestion is to participate in that competition. It's very hard to get into the competition because it's not just about the startups. Companies less than 500 employees will participate in that competition. And
Are you talking about X Prize?
no, it's not X Prize. Testing a stream. So it's a testing stream, and but only 7 to 10 companies will pass the competition every year. And if you pass that competition among all those companies, you will have a very good opportunity, very good, almost 100% sure you can have several contracts with government. And now we have this opportunity. We were lucky to get because of, wildfire is one of the most important challenges now for the government. So that's one thing. We don't have experiences that can answer your question. So this is something special. So it might not be very good example for you guys, but yeah.
Thank you.
But you can try it. Test the stream.
Go ahead.
Thank you for your speech. I actually got a couple of questions,
Sure.
but I'll ask the first one. So you choose to get into this wildfire management industry, but why it is you choose the fire sensing part, not the fire put out part or the afterwards natural resources rebuild part? Okay,
very good. Yeah, there are a bunch of companies that are working now in these areas. So suppression and kind of mitigation. There are two phases of wildfire management. So mitigation is kind of having controlled fires or having kind of making the forest kind of resilient to the wildfires. Another one is suppression phase. So there are a bunch of companies that are working, especially those with drones, are working for suppression techniques. And the most difficult part of having a company, starting a company, is financing the company. It's very difficult. And if your product needs a lot of money to just start a small project, probably you will lose. So it would be a high chance of losing, and it's very difficult to get into the market easy. So hardware is costly, very costly, and usually hardwares are not, if you are in the hardware industry, you know that hardware are not good at the beginning. The bunch of revisions, it takes time. The revisions are difficult, it takes time and costly. If you want to have a kind of a few pieces of your hardware, you need to pay money. And more than that, mitigation and suppression are really among those areas that need a lot of money. For example, having drones, having equipments of suppression, having equipments for mitigations, these kind of things are really costly. We didn't have enough money for that. We didn't see the potential. Probably it can be very good opportunity for this kind of things, especially for Natural Resource Canada. They are working on it a lot. But usually those companies that are established, they have a lot of money, they have a good cash flow, so they can work on this area. So I didn't see a startup company that work on this area and they can manage the cost. So it's very difficult.
Thank you. So my follow-up question will be that how do you secure your supply chain as a startup company? The supply chain is one of the most important sector of the entire company running scheme, right? So how do you secure it, and how do you make sure it's running properly?
It depends. It depends on your product and on your market. So for our market, because there is no replacement for the product right now in the market for our product, so usually people can wait. So if we just delay sending the product delivery for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or 1 month, they won't tell anything. But this is just for now. So it depends on your market and how many competitors you have in the market. If you are in a competitive market, you need to have a very healthy supply chain. But if you are not, so you are lucky and you can learn and make mistakes. You have more chances to make mistakes. We were not very good and in the supply chain. We did a lot of mistakes and we were very slow at the beginning, and now step by step we are getting faster and trying to fix the product line, especially by having a kind of better space, ordering 2 months or 3 months sooner than, and just forecasting how many products we need for the next 3 months and this kind of ways. But again, it's very challenging because you need money. And also, this is very risky to order ahead without having a customer. You should make sure that you have a customer. This is a mistake that usually the startup companies, especially those that work in the hardware, make. They pre-order a lot, spend a lot of money, but they don't have any customer. And this is very, very risky. So you should try to find that balance. So, and see how much margin you have for delaying things. You should measure that margin and don't try to fix everything very quick and try to just deliver things fast and quick, and make more mistakes, especially when you're designing something. Being very rushing doing something, you make a lot of mistakes. So this is just a balance. So you need to find yourself how to. This is just a feature of being a good leader or being a good manager, and we are learning. We are learning to. We are not the best, but we are trying to find how to balance the cash out and cash in.
Thank you so much, and this will be my last question. I will leave the floor to the others. So, what was the most challenging part of starting up a company? What was the biggest obstacle you're facing?
Wow, that's a very good question. Actually, for my journey of having a company and working in a company, I think that the most important and the most difficult part of starting a company, especially in kind of a country that is not your home country, is being patient and working hard every day. You may not believe it or believe it or not, I didn't have weekend for 5 years. When I was in Iran and started working hard and until now. So every day I work on hard. I try to make something, fix something, or try to address a challenge or tackle with different type of challenge. So the most difficult part of starting a company is being patient and, of course, having a good partner or wife or husband. So that guy should be also a patient guy. So when I started working in SenseNet, I was a postdoc. Postdocs do not have good salaries. I was good because in that time we had 2 projects with Rogers Communications at UBC, but usually the people around you have better jobs. But you should be very patient and you should believe in your work, in your passion, and also the idea that you have. It's very difficult. It's like raising a baby. It's really it's very difficult. So sometimes you need to just leave it. So I had 2 startups before this one and failed. Both of them failed. And this is the 3rd one. And this is not the first. So this is the 3rd one. So, but again, it doesn't mean that it is successful. We are doing the best. So we see positive view for the future, but it doesn't mean. But we do our best. We have some experiences of our past failures. And the most important thing to be successful, from my point of view, is having a good team. It doesn't mean that your team should be here. You can have your team in other countries, like like in Iran, but your co-founder should be a good one, and it shouldn't be like you. You should have a co-founder, first of all. Without a co-founder, you cannot manage startup companies. Having a startup and a company. First of all, you should have a co-founder, and your co-founder should not be like you. If your co-founder is similar to you, it doesn't mean that you can. It doesn't mean that you are two people. So try to find a co-founder that has the same level of energy, level of passion, but with different point of view, with different abilities. So you can be a complementary to each other. Hamed is really a good co-founder. He's one of the best, and we are working for 4 years together, and we didn't have even one struggle. Yeah, he's the best.
Which features do you use for your detection? You pointed to sensors, around 20 sensors that you embedded around the railroads. And I saw some images in your website, but are they all or any other thing, for example, the satellite information or any other thing that you use?
For now, for detection, we are using cameras and sensors. So two technologies. Cameras, we install the cameras on, currently we are working with Rogers Communications, so the Rogers is now our partner, and we installed our cameras on Rogers towers, cell towers. So, and the second one is sensors. The second technology is sensors that we are using, so smoke detectors that we have. Those sensors are those that you can find in the market. The sensors themselves are not very important. How to have the device that can maintain, can live in the forestry area with, you know, snow, minus 40 degrees in the winter, and especially when you put a sensor in the forest, you cannot install a gateway everywhere because you don't have internet or you don't have a power. So having a mesh topology is very important and critical. It's not something that we developed, the mesh topology. It's mesh topology in communication systems is something that's very well known. But usually mesh topologies are, when you have a mesh in communication network, it means that sensors talk to each other, send data to each other to kind of a gateway that is a router to the internet. So this is not new. But having a mesh topology that is low power is new. So being low power is very important, and we are doing our best, our knowledge to make the devices as low power as possible. So to have these devices in the forest, in the forest for 5 to 10 years, this is the target, and this is important. So sensors themselves are something else. Being a device, being a communication device that can live in the forest for 5 to 10 years is another thing. And sending the data. Now the challenge that we have for railways, just assume that the railways that we recently installed a batch of sensors, a kind of 20 sensors close to Squamish railways. It is, we don't have LTE, we don't have power, and of course you cannot have every 100 meters, you cannot have a gateway. So the sensors are in linear structure, so 20 sensors are talking to each other, sending data to the gateway. This is the case. So and keeping the system low power, again, I said that it's a challenge.
And you know that forests are spread in a very, very wide area all around the Canada and also in BC. And the major problem is that if you want to broadcast some sensors, for example, 200 sensors, can only cover a bit part of that big portion. So it's only about maybe detecting fire or wildfire or in early stage or underground stage in that part.
Exactly.
And can we do anything to extend it to bigger areas? For example, with that 200 sensors, which area could you able to cover?
This is something that, this is a limitation of the technology. You cannot make everything happen. So the sensors are sensors, they have their own limitation. The sensitivity of sensors are known, so we cannot make it something new. So, and SenseNet is not a sensor developer. We are not sensor developers. So we just use sensors in the market. The main thing that we have is that communication system. So, but for sensors, again, you're right. So covering the wide area is very difficult, but there is a kind of solution for this one, having a safeguard around the communities. For example, for predatories that we are installing sensors around it, so we just cover as a circle around it, so it would be a safeguard. So when the fire is close to that sensor, we can detect it. So 1 kilometer away of a sensor is a margin, so it's a safe margin. But again, if you want to cover a wide area, it's better to use cameras and just put sensors in those high-risk areas. For example, you know that there is a high chance of having wildfire because of the dry vegetation or having kind of a good fuel amount for for a wildfire to spread fast. So fuel moisture or kind of dead fuel moisture is a KPI or indicator for a risk of having a wildfire that is can be out of control. So dead fuel moisture is one indicator. Another one is fire weather index, which is a combination of multiple factors that try to measure the risk of fire in any location at any time. It changes over time. It depends on the weather, the rain, and the wind, the slope, lots of factors. But you can look at the historical data of fire weather index to see which areas around the community that you're targeting has higher fire weather index, so you can install the sensors there. This is something.
Thank you. For linear detection, why you didn't use beam detection, for example, such as laser? Is there any possibility to use that in beam detection?
Beam?
Yeah, such as laser that can go linear optic sensors and use that for detecting fire. In the data centers, I see that they use that, but for the linear detection near railways, I don't know. Is that working?
To be honest, I don't have enough knowledge to answer this question. So, but probably it's the case. But again, different factors you should consider. One of them is being applicable for forestry areas, especially the power consumption. Usually lasers are use a lot of power, and you cannot, for example, use 2 D-sized batteries for more than, for example, 5 years to supply that.
Which kind of sensor do you use for that? For example, you said you use monoxide or such as
gas sensors, yeah,
sensors.
different kind of gas sensors.
How many, for example, in each hectare, how many sensors do you use for that?
A hectare is a larger scale, so usually we can say that a sensor can cover a radius of 1 kilometer. Just one sensor, 1 kilometer, then you can calculate how many sensors you need.
How much it cost for one?
For the clients or for ourselves?
How much is the difference?
So it depends. So the pricing scheme that we have, it depends on the number of sensors and the difficulty of installation, the area, and those kind of different factors. So the pricing is kind of something that we negotiate with the companies, but it's usually a few $1,000s.
Thank you.
Too expensive. We're not going to go to the next one.
Let's first just go back to the government.
Yeah.
You
Is it your
men-
passport?
No, it's just like.
Oh, okay.
You mentioned the testing stream competition.
Yeah.
Just they like in favor of companies like you who's trying to like solving the urgent problems, or
You mean that what kind of problem, what kind of companies they are looking for, or what kind of solution they're looking for? Usually, it depends on each year they have different streams. For example, the year that we participated in 2021, it was about environmental, but last year it was about healthcare, and it depends. It depends on the year. So let's wait for this year to see what they are looking for. But there are two streams. One is kind of military use cases, another one is public use cases, or normal use cases, yes.
You also mentioned that you work with the CTO incubator.
Yeah.
Did you go to them before or after you win the competitions?
Usually after graduating from CDO, you have a high chance of getting investors, because investors look for the graduated companies from CDL. CDL is very well known, very trusted by the investors, especially angel investors, and it's very good for pre-seeding or Series A companies that they can get money from investors. Honestly, the most important part of having a company, especially those companies that can be scaled. So one of them, we have scalable startups, or we have a small companies. There are two different types. Those that are scalable, the most important step or milestone is getting an investor. You may think that why I should sell the shares of the company to someone, but if you don't sell it, no one will trust you. For scalable companies, yeah, if you want to have a small company, that's okay. It's up to you, and of course, the shares won't be that valuable. But if you want one indicator that your company is really a good company is having an investor. This is inevitable. You should have an investor, and having investor. From my point of view, the best way, easier, straightforward way is being in an incubator or accelerators.
And you also have the government as your client, I guess.
Yeah.
What's your experience with working with the government? Because is it like different from working with?
Yeah, it's very different. Actually, they won't pay you before, so you need to have a good cash in your company. So usually they won't pay, and they are very strict in the contracts. So if you don't deliver things by the time that is written in the contract, they will charge you. They really penalize the companies, and this is the case. But they're easier to have, for example, in overpriced contracts. So
Tax dollars at work.
yeah. Overpriced contracts are easier for private companies. No.
That's
Yeah.
all my question.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
One more question.
Sure.
How long did it take you to get IRAP and DC fast one, roughly from the point of finding out what it is all the way to actually getting it? Out of curiosity.
We in 2020 we rejected, and it was a reject. So at the beginning, the most important part of IRAP and getting funded for BC Fast Pilot, honestly, is having a kind of customer or a potential customer. This is very important.
Even one customer?
Even one customer. So we are the customer, and our IRAPs usually have agents that work with you. So they are kind of a connector of you and IRAP, so the company. And they're just looking for those companies that have kind of cash flow. You know why? Because they want to pay you, for example, 100,000. But usually the projects need more money. 100,000 usually double. So they need to make sure that you have enough money to finance the project yourself. So it means that when they're paying some money, they're spending some money, there is a high chance to have a fruitful result. so some kind of reasonable result at the end. So they want to spend money on those companies that have lower risk of wasting the money. How? They should have money. They should have a good financing. After having a good financing, probably you will get the funding from IRAP. Having the first customer is very difficult. And we didn't have the first customer in forestry. Maybe our first customer was in smart home industry. And we developed lots of sensors, and we did a good project with them for a smart home. The company is a Chinese company, and they are actually developers. So real estate developers, and they wanted to have kind of smart home, kind of a smart home products for their buildings that they are developing. So, and we were their kind of contractor for this job. So that was a kind of lucky steps of the company. So it was just kind of like chance. So no way. So just they trusted us very easy because of different connections that we had. So nothing else. And UBC kind of a brand. So when they saw that we are graduating from UBC and we have a kind of good team, so they trusted us.
You said in 2019 they failed, you tried again, and then it took a year, or?
Yeah, at the beginning the company that we started was about business intelligence, because I was working in a business intelligence company, but it didn't work. It didn't work in Canada, and we had competitors, like, I don't remember the name, but there are a bunch of big companies that are working in BI. And so we failed. So, but when we understood that we're gonna fail in just a few months. We didn't spend that much time on that company. And then we changed the way to kind of environmental companies, so that time, so wildfire detection. Also, I work on another startup as a CTO, and I was a shareholder in one company in water management, and that one didn't fail, but to be honest, I didn't find any potential in that. I just quit that company with nothing, just zero. Very bad.
Is it okay that your revenue was in another way than the thing that you wanted IRAP to invest in that? For example, you said that your revenue was from smart home companies. Maybe you designed something for smart homes, and then you wanted IRAP to support you for wildfire in the forests. So is it okay with that one?
It wasn't easy to convince IRAP that this cash flow that we have is kind of a repetitive cash flow. It's very important to be consistent. But the funding that IRAP is giving is not that much. So it's among the funding values, 100,000 is nothing for projects like those environmental projects, special hardware projects. Just you will spend that money in just blink of eyes. So it's just a 1 year salary of a person. It's nothing. So, but this is one factor. Another factor is the problem that you're solving. Wildfires in 2021 was among those problems that IRAP and government wanted to spend money on it. So we had a very smooth steps to get the funding in that time. And because they have very experienced people in IRAP, and they know what kind of problems, what kind of companies have potentials. They just, even if you think that you have a good potential, it doesn't mean that they think that you have a good potential. So it's kind of being in the right time. So and applying in the right time and having and if you are trying to address the right problem, it would be easy for you guys. So in that time, wildfire was one of the problems that they wanted to spend money.
And if you want, you can answer this question. How much was your revenue from the other the smart home?
1 million.
1 million.
1 million.
So it was considerable.
Yeah, it was considerable. Yeah.
One other question for me: have you, because this issue, like as far as I'm aware, because I worked with some companies who do firefighting. So depending on where the fire season is in the world, like northern hemisphere or southern hemisphere, sometimes like when it's our winter, they send their troops to Australia, for instance. Have you considered that kind of thing, or exploring opportunities beyond Canada?
Currently, we are just focusing on Canada and the United States because we are not in larger scale to handle, to kind of being able to, for example, work in Europe or Australia. And our competitors actually are in those countries, for example. So but Canada is our main market, and the United States is the second target. We had a few fire demos currently in the United States in the past few weeks, and probably we get into the United States very soon, but it depends on the product line that we have and how many customers we can get. Yeah.
Question. With forest fires increasing in the last 5-10 years in BC, Alberta, we're basically sending smoke to New York.
Oh, yeah.
Local governments and BC governments should be throwing their pocketbooks at you. What is the challenge in dealing with those agencies? I mean,
why they're not approaching us? Actually, they are. They are approaching us. So we don't have kind of strong challenge in the sales side. So we can approach customers, and they are almost 90% of them are positive. So they don't say no. But the problem is that when they say yes, they are still kind of thinking about the fire demo, whether the system really works, and is it really working, and these kind of things. So
it's a trust issue?
Yeah, trust issue. And that trust is because governments and governmental, usually larger scale larger scale companies, those customers do not trust the small companies, because these systems should be ongoing. They think that you may fail 2 years later, what they should do with your devices around. Okay, this is the case. So this is a challenge that we have, to show that we are not a startup right now. So, but we are a startup. And so it's a kind of, in this moment, the most important action that startup companies should do is having partners, big partners, and being under their flag, under their shadow. So Rogers is our partner right now. And when we say that we are a close partner with Rogers, they kind of trust us. And this is the way that we are doing right now. This is the challenge that we have.
Any last question?
Do you have an API that you push your data to? Do you have like an API that you push your data from your sensors to other entities, other companies?
Not other companies, just our clients for now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's a closed API.
It's a closed API, not public. Yeah, right now.
Awesome. Yes, that's about it for now. Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Thank you very much, guys. Thank you very much for having me in
It was
this.
pretty blank.